Health insurance is an insurance that covers the whole or part of risk of a person incurring the medical expenses. This insurance, called as the personal accident insurance, is something which is not being covered in the regular manner. Sustainability. Now, this is a very, very important word that is coming in terms of the environmental and the insurance factors altogether. We need to understand that without health insurance, we will not be able to survive at all. Good morning and welcome to the first session in Unit 3, Principles and Practice of General Insurance, where we are going to speak about the non-life miscellaneous insurances. Now, this is going to be quite interesting. Why? Because right from the beginning in India, we have been speaking only about the life insurance. We love life insurance because we only believe that there is a category that always talks about life and the concepts of life. But then, beyond the life of human being, there are also insurances that we need to look for. So, risk in simple terms is uncertainty or an occurrence of loss, and this risk is associated with human life, also with the other life. So, we have discussed about this in the previous unit. That's what I mean to say here by the factor of risk, is that we have definitely talked about how the risk occurs and how it is so unpredictable in a human life altogether. But in this unit, we are going to talk about another important segment, that's the non-life, which talks about fire, which talks about marine, and which talks about the liability insurance. So all these kinds of insurances are very, very important. Why? Because they are again going to tell you the need factor, how you need to cover yourself when untoward incidences are possible to occur in the day-to-day life. So let's moving further. Personal accident insurance. What is so important about personal accident insurance? Can't it be claimed under the motor insurance or the vehicle insurance itself? Now let me tell you, whenever we talk about insurances in the day-to-day world, it is so obvious that this insurance, called as the personal accident insurance, is something which is not being covered in the regular manner. Why? Because when we talk about personal accident, it is not just about getting hit in a vehicle. You might be standing on the road and you are being hit by a vehicle, or there are possibilities of other way where you land up in an accident. At that point of time, you need an insurance to cover yourself and tell that yes, this insurance is going to guide me, it's going to take me forward altogether. So that's why I would always say the personal accident insurance is a policy that can reimburse your medical costs, provided you take the compensation in case of disability or death caused by the accidents factor. Accidental death, if the policyholder dies in an accident, then this nominee gets to the accidental death compensation, plus the permanent total disability in an accident times despite the medical will help victim even if he becomes disabled in life. Now what we are trying to look here is that the accident factor is quite obvious, which means to say that not only you might get seriously injured, but in case if there is a loss of life, the person's wife, near kith and kin, is going to get the compensation factor altogether. Secondly, in case of a serious accident which leaves the person completely disabled, which means to say that permanent disability, then the insurance company is also going to cover that part so that you are going to get a permanent disability factor coverage which will help you to take care of your life. Moving further, we are also going to talk about the health insurance. Health insurance is an insurance that covers the whole or part of risk of a person incurring the medical expenses. Now, there was a news in the morning stating that the insurance coverage has been going up especially high in the category of 30 to 45 years age altogether. After the pandemic, it has been quite obvious that people have started insuring themselves for whatever reasons and costs. The recent report from the IRDAI states that the insurance claims have gone up 5 times more when compared to the previous years. The reason is quite obvious. Why? Because with the pandemic setting in and a lot of people falling sick, falling into troubles of the health, automatically people would like to cover up themselves with insurance. So what is happening from the insurance standpoint is, one side the sales are increasing. Why? Because everybody is trying to cover themselves using an insurance policy. The other side of the story remains that the claim function is also going up higher because people are too often falling sick, or they are feeling something bad altogether. They're not able to keep their normal health in good conditions. Now, what is important for us to learn from this factor is that health insurance is no more about a choice, but it's going to become a mandatory option for each one of us. We need to understand that without health insurance, we will not be able to survive at all. So this is very, very important for all of us to understand and take it forward. This is mandatory. This is a very, very important part for all of us to understand. Now, the next thing that we are going to talk about is that we are going to understand the overall risk of health factor, the systems, the expenses that is going to come into picture, which is going to be borne by the insurer, and he can develop a routine finance structure such as a monthly premium or a payroll tax to provide money to pay for the healthcare benefit specified in the agreement. Healthcare insurance has been planned up in such a manner that the person who is taking the insurance does not have to block a lump sum money every year. You can pay the premium on a monthly basis with the insurance company giving you multiple options. You can also start looking up for better EMIs. You can start structuring your entire payment in such a way that it is convenient for you, and you also get covered in case of any emergency or exigency. Now, the healthcare insurance companies have also started providing tax benefit for the people who are taking insurance, so that to a certain amount of the money in the premiums that is being paid, that can be taken as a tax benefit. What is happening here is that the benefit that are going to be provided by the insurance company are going to be administered by a central organization such as a government agency known as the IRDAI, the Insurance Development Regulatory Authority of India, which is going to provide an insight in terms of the governing factors, how you need to run the insurance, what kind of claims can be taken into picture, and how we need to provide the people a regular insurance altogether. Now, the other thing that IRDAI says to all the people is that you need to understand what kind of cover you are opting for in the insurance. Most of the people think that by just buying a health insurance, everything gets covered. But it is not true. Why? Because the insurance company tells you under what circumstances you will be able to claim the insurance. It is not that moment you have bought the insurance, the very next moment if something happens to you, you just produce the card and you will get the benefit. The insurance company gives you certain time limit. They also tell whether it is going to be hospitalization charges, post-hospitalization charges. Is it only for the medicine? Is it only covering major surgeries, minor surgeries? All these factors are going to be covered under the insurance factor. So whenever you are going to buy the health insurance, you need to understand what are the terms and conditions that have been laid down as an agreement to the company altogether. So they have to be told very clearly that these are the factors under which we are going to look for that particular insurance. And if you have not understood, if you have seen that the health insurance only as a package card, then it is going to be in trouble for you, because when you are going to claim for some insurance, the company might not agree to it. So every time when you take a healthcare insurance, go through the terms and conditions, understand it, call your insurance insurance agent, find out what exactly they have told, in under what terms and conditions the reimbursements and claims can be covered, and then the health insurance really becomes a boon for you. Followed by, let's talk about the health insurance in the factors of the provision of the healthcare that's in the Indian government status. Now, when you look into India from the governmental side, we have never been able to provide a public insurance cover. Only of late, after 2015 onwards, where we started coming with the Ayush scheme, that is where we have started putting in factors of the Jeevan Bima Yojanas kind of thing, where we want to give the people complete healthcare insurance policy packages. Now, what is happening here is that with the recent innovations and interventions of the government in terms of making insurance a mandatory coverage for the people, what has happened is healthcare insurance cover has been initiated by the government as a part of a regular activity. Now, if you see that many states have started investing in healthcare, and there are modernization of hospitals and healthcare units have started up going in a very high level. But still, public healthcare services are prominent in most of the states, no doubt about it, but due to inadequate resources, management, and major population opts for the private services. We were able to clearly see in the course of pandemic that most of the hospitals were not equipped enough to handle the situation. They didn't have a ventilator, they didn't have any kind of oxygen service facility, neither the operation theaters or the state-of-the-art medicine or facilities were available in most of the states. The reason is that there is a growing population problem in our country, and most of the states have not seen a surge in terms of medical need as what has happened in the last 2 years. So now it is a lesson for all the hospitals, government as well as private hospitals, that they need to equip themselves with the adequate facilities so that in the upcoming scenarios, they are ready to handle the people and the situation altogether. Now, government has made healthcare a very, very big priority in the execution altogether, and recently about 23,000 crores has been sanctioned by the government again to protect from the recent COVID-19. So what has happened here is that government has not taken healthcare anymore as an optional factor or a sunrise sector. Government has made healthcare as a mandatory sector. So going forward, it is going to be important for each one of us to enroll in one or the other scheme that is being provided by the government in order to take care of our health. The other thing we are going to see is that to improve the awareness and better healthcare facilities, Insurance Regulatory Development Authority of India and the General Corporation of India has started taking the healthcare campaigns altogether. So what is happening here is that the IRDAI and the insurance companies have gone forward and they have started educating the people, making them aware about the situation, how important it is in terms of having your healthcare done. Now, if you see even in the vaccination drive, or if you happen to see in any of the related activities that has been going on, everybody is asking to take on a particular healthcare. Everybody is trying to opt for an healthcare insurance so that in the long term, it will be a high beneficial event for them. Followed by in 2018, the underprivileged citizens, Prime Minister Narendra Modi announced the launch of new healthcare called as the Modi Care, where the government claims that the new system will try to reach more than 500 million people. Now, this is what I was exactly trying to say. In the year 2018, if you remember, that was a time period where the government had announced a scheme where they wanted to cover more than 500 million people under a healthcare scheme altogether. Now, that healthcare scheme was not just opted out because they wanted to bring in some system or they want to promote some scheme altogether, but they wanted to bring in an actual healthcare policy so that most of the underprivileged people and the downtrodden will also get sufficient healthcare, adequate facility, and their lives can be protected. Moving further, sustainability. Now, this is a very, very important word that is coming in terms of the environmental and the insurance factors altogether. Now, sustainability, according to us, is all about able to retain your core factors. Sustainable event management, where you are able to produce an event with particular concern for the environmental, economic factors altogether. Now, what is happening here is that the organizations are today making a great amount of effort in terms of making the environment even more sustainable, even more productive in nature. Recently, the HDFC Bank has contributed more than 1,800 crores towards the corporate social responsibility, towards the sustainable India factors altogether. Why? Because they understand that the growing economic issues, the social issues have to be addressed. Now, there might be factors like job, there might be factors like, when we talk about healthcare, unemployment, or child education, women empowerment, there are so many events in the society where India has to start thinking in the lines of sustainability. We cannot just ignore these issues and concentrate only on the economic growth of the country. The insurance companies as well as the corporates today have started thinking about life sustainability, the environmental sustainability, organization sustainability. Why? Because these things are going to carry a huge benefit in terms of the growth and in terms of your long-term participation. Now, what is happening here is that now organizations have started thinking how they can start creating something which is more sustainable in nature, how to invest in those projects which could bring in a long-term benefit in terms of growth, in terms of, making the life of people better. Reliance Industries, in its recent annual general meeting, made a very, very fantastic statement saying that they are going to pursue the dreams of their founder, Dhirubhai Ambani, where they're going to invest a huge amount of money in the Dhirubhai Ambani Knowledge City altogether. They are already having educational institutions and colleges where they want to invest and they want to bring in sustainable educational plans for the upcoming youth. Plus, you would have also seen that they have invested a significant amount of money in Sports Foundation, where they want the young sportsmen who cannot afford the training and coaching. They have taken through that foundation and they're enabling many athletes and sports person to come up so that India could come up in a top league when it comes to the world of sports. So similarly, most of the companies today have tried to enable themselves to get into this corporate sustainability so that in the long run they are able to go further and produce something meaningful. Now, it also involves seeing that when you start getting into an event or an organization, it sees that the entire event is being taken up with a great responsibility. Now, let's take a small example here. Let's say that when we are going to organize a blood donation camp altogether, it is not for a publicity stunt or a marketing procedure here. It is all about seeing that blood donation activity which has taken place will be of help for the people who are in need. So what we mean by a sustainable event or an act is that it should go and help people who are really in need of that particular event. The second thing is that it represents the total package of interventions at an event, and it needs to be done in such an integrated manner. Now, you cannot go further and say that this will happen in the way that, I will just isolate it, I will just take a separate stand altogether. You need to continue with your corporate activities as well as your CSR. CSR is no different from your regular day-to-day work, because CSR is something which is going to be a part of your mainstream activity altogether. So this is definitely going to play a very, very important role that will help you to get in terms of the contracts and suppliers and other factors altogether. Followed by when we talk about the Mediclaim. Now, Mediclaim policy is an insurance cover which shields you against increasing medical costs arising out of hospitalization. So whenever, like as we have been talking about health insurance, Mediclaim is also a kind of policy that will help you to cover all the costs that is arising because of the hospitalization. Moment you enter a hospital today, for whatever reasons, it might be just a one-day admission or it might be any minor healthcare issue, but you are definitely going to understand this fact. The cost is really going to go above the roof. So that's why you need to have a Mediclaim policy with you. It offers financial protection in the case of hospitalization due to illness or due to an accident factor altogether. So it is very, very important that we have a Mediclaim policy with us at any given point of time so that you are able to cover yourself and you are able to take it forward. The next thing is that similar forms of insurance Mediclaim policy benefits can be exercised by paying the premium annually. So it becomes very, very important that many forms of Mediclaim insurances, the benefits can also be exercised by paying the premium annually. You can take a 6 months payment, you can take a monthly, you can take a quarterly payment. So there are many options that are being given to you which you can use in order to make use of the Mediclaim policy. This type of insurance comes with a defined policy period and it has to be renewed. So when I say a defined policy period, it might be for 1 year, 2 years. So it's based on a particular time limit. Once that particular time is being over, then if you have to claim it, you have to renew your policy and then you will be able to get all the benefits. Now, moving further, the policy coverage all factor, it covers the ease of cashless hospitalization, which is very, very important today. Why? Because at the moment of emergency, you do not know exactly where to run for money, where to run for cash. But then if you have a Mediclaim card with you, this will be of a great help for you. It will protect you from the rising costs, followed by you can opt it for yourself or for the entire family. So this is going to be an entire thing altogether. It shields you from all the financial burden that you can talk about. Why? Because all the financial burden that we are speaking about today is very, very important. That is like whenever you talk about this hospitalization, that is going to have a very severe effect on your family, on your day-to-day working scenario, on your day-to-day expenses. So we want to take away that financial burden. You can go in for the medical policy coverage, followed by remove the expenses from your pocket, plus the insurance companies will handle the expenses. It is very easy to buy insurances these days through online. Plus, it also gives you a tax exemption factor, which is very, very important, which I would like to say. Why? Because this, in the long run, you might appreciate the factor that more and more exemptions that we get, that will actually help you to save money also, and cost-effective healthcare system. Moment you go to a private hospital today, the bills are going to be definitely high, but everybody wants to have a quality healthcare service. So you can go to the best of the best hospitals and get an effective treatment done, and for this purpose the Mediclaim will definitely help you to cover at any given point of time. With this, I come to the end of this particular session. I hope and believe that this session was of a great help and resource to you. In the upcoming sessions, we are going to continue in terms of the non-life insurances. But until then, stay tuned, stay blessed, and stay enlightened forever. Thank you once again for joining me today on this wonderful session.